Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So today we've got to keep on topic of speaking about the new lore which has been coming out with the new 8th edition, but today we're going to be discussing the Dark Imperium book by Guy Hayley. It was a book that is basically coming out along with the new 8th edition to set up some of the story now which comes along with the actual rule book and stuff. It features a lot of spoilers, so please, if you haven't read the book yet, I would recommend you go and read the book first before watching this video. There's a link in the description to go and buy the book. It comes out in ebook and I think it's paperback as well, if I'm not mistaken. I got the ebook version. So go and get that first before attempting to watch this video. And again, if you're still reading the book, this video is going to be covering the entirety of the book, so it's going to have a lot of spoilers, so please be aware of that. This is your first and last warning about spoilers, and that is it. So we're going to jump in and we're going to start discussing the book. Right, so the best way I'm going to do this is that I'm going to actually speak about each character, well, some of the main characters in the book, and just go through all the information that was in the book about him. So for example, I'll do Guilliman first, then I'll go on to Call, and then I'll talk about like the Primaris Marines, Mortarion, and some of the other stuff like the Custodes, the Sisters of Silence and stuff like that. So let's jump in and we shall start with Guilliman. So one of the big things from the book from me was seeing an actual flashback to 10,000 years ago, well around 10,000 years ago, when Guilliman fought Fulgrim in his demon form. So Guilliman, at the head of the Ultramarine chapter, plus with successor fleets, chases Fulgrim basically into an ambush. After realizing his mistake, he leads a boarding party onto Fulgrim's ship to try and obviously kill Fulgrim, and that is where he is mortally wounded and put into stasis. So that for me was quite a big shock to actually read that in this book. Firstly, because I thought they were really going to keep this kind of stuff for another series, because after the Horus Heresy, it's more or less been confirmed that there's going to be a scouring series where the loyalist chapters hunt down the remaining Chaos legions and take back all the worlds that were lost and stuff like that. That is going to be another series of books. So I was really shocked to see that in this book, because I thought they would have used that kind of plot in the actual Scouring books when like the Primarchs fight, their demon brothers and all that kind of stuff. So for me, that was quite a big shock, and it was really fun to actually read. To see Guilliman fight his brother, and how he actually got mortally wounded and put into stasis. It was a really big eye opener. I actually really enjoyed that, and I'm really glad they actually put it in now, because it was a really good scene. Well, a good read. And I think one of the good things about it is that it shows Guilliman made a mistake, because I personally think that everyone thinks Guilliman is this ultimate person who never gets anything wrong. He's he always has the moral high ground. He's the best of all of us and stuff. But this shows that he made a big mistake, and it cost him more or less his life for that mistake. He put his pride and his actual ignorance before everything, and it cost him his life, and it cost him a lot of his sons' lives as well. And for me, I would say that adds humanity to him, but obviously he's a Primarch, he's above humanity. But it adds a bit of more character to the actual guy, instead of, oh, Guilliman, he's got it right again, because he's basically Guilliman. He knows everything. He's always right and stuff like that. So I actually, like I said, really enjoyed reading that, and seeing that a bit more character added to the actual Primarch himself. Now, there's another big thing in this book, is that it delves into the throne room meeting with Guilliman and the Emperor. First off, Guilliman is completely horrified, and just horrified is probably the right word for it, at the state of his father's condition. He sees him like he's basically dead upon the golden throne. So he's actually in shock as what his father has become, physically what his father is now. Another thing to come out of this as well is that it's actually quite emotional, is that Guilliman learns that the Emperor sees Guilliman as a tool, not a son. He actually, the Primarchs in the Emperor's eyes were created for a purpose, whereas some Primarchs look to their father as a father figure. He's my father at the end of the day. But the Emperor doesn't really care about that. The Emperor's pretty much a bit of a dick. But it's these people were created for a purpose. Now, when they call him father and stuff like that, the Emperor really never like scorned them or anything. He just let it ride at the end of the day. So maybe it was so it made them a bit more loyal in a way. But Guilliman comes to see the light, and he knows his father sees him as an actual tool or weapon of sorts, and not really as a son, which is a bit disappointing for Guilliman. I got the sense that it was a bit upsetting in a way, and I know it's just a book, but imagine putting yourself in Roberto Guilliman's shoes. You've done all this stuff for this guy who you think's your father. You're completely loyal to him. You've killed brothers allegedly. Guilliman's supposed to have killed Alpharius / Omegon. We'll go into that in another video. All in this chap's name, and you come to the realization that this guy doesn't see you as a son. He sees you as a weapon, as a tool, for his bidding. That's got to shake you quite some bit. I'm not saying Guilliman's a heretic or anything like that. He's completely loyal to the Imperium. He would never waver in his loyalty to the Imperium. He would gladly die for the Imperium. I'm just saying that it is a bit of a kicker to learn that. I personally, if that was me, I'd be like, damn, I've done all this and you don't even see me as a son. It really goes to speak about that. The Emperor's humanity is all but gone in 40k. He's no longer, well, I'm not going to say he's no longer a human, but his connection to his humanity side of it is more or less just vanished. He's just this psychic husk of a carcass now, just keeping back the forces of chaos embedded on the Golden Throne. So that is a bit of a kick, and it was quite an emotional thing to read for me personally. I'm not going to say I'm going to start crying or anything, but it was a bit of it was quite a bit of an emotional read. And I think throughout this book, and I'll probably be coming back towards this, is that throughout this actual book itself, it adds character to Guilliman. I know I spoke about it a bit at the start of the video, but this book adds character to Guilliman, because I always saw Guilliman as Mr. Right. He can't do anything wrong. He's the main guy. He's always in the limelight. He's never wrong. Everyone listens to good old Roboute. Everyone takes his advice and stuff. But in this book, it's breaking him down. It's like, this guy is not perfect. He can make mistakes. He is emotional. He's not perfect. He's not perfect, as we're all led to believe. And I think out of everything in the book, that is what I enjoyed the most, is that this book makes Guilliman not the perfect character that everyone thought he was. And yeah, that's what I really enjoyed about it the most. Moving on, he doesn't see the Emperor as a god. Well, he's not sure whether the Emperor is a god. He dislikes the religious aspect of the Imperium itself. He doesn't. I get the feeling that he would love to get rid of it completely, but he can't, because that would cause too much chaos at this time within the Imperium, with all that's going on with chaos and all that kind of stuff. But I get the sense and I get the feeling that maybe that may be a future conflict with his character, maybe a future book series where maybe he wants to get rid of the philosophy of that the Emperor is a god, and he wants to maybe bring back the Imperial truth. I don't know how that would go down, especially, you've got the Inquisition, you've got the all the sisters and all that kind of stuff, which we're going to be speaking about later. You've got some chapters who actually see the Emperor as a god as well, so would that basically cause, the Guilliman Heresy 2.0 or something like that? So that's a very, very tricky fine line like he's walking down at the moment, which again is very interesting, because I know a lot of people actually spoke about if a Primarch did come back, how would they actually feel that the Emperor is seen as a god now, when they used to crusade to bring the imperial truth onto people about there is no gods, there is nothing, it's just the Emperor leading us, it's just leading humanity, he's not a god and stuff like that. So that again was a an actual very interesting read. Another really fun thing which Gilliman does, he actually creates a new order of historians to try and piece together the history of the Imperium, because since Gilliman basically got put into states and stuff, history and the records of the Imperium has basically gone down the crapper. No one knows what happened when, what date that happened, and stuff like that. So Gilliman's really shocked at this. He's like, "What do you mean no one's been taking notes or writing stuff down when certain stuff happened? No one's been taking track, because everyone knows that Gilliman loves to write stuff down. He's one of these people who loves to audit kind of stuff. So he's actually really shocked at this. But one of the most interesting things to come out of this is that the Inquisition hates this. They do not like it at all, and it's evenly subtly hinted at that some of the maybe the Inquisition are actually killing these historians that have been put in place by Gilliman. So I don't know if they're trying to hide something. I don't know what they've got to hide. Maybe they don't want the greater humanity to learn about certain aspects of the Imperium, or maybe demons or something like that. But I think it's everything should be recorded personally. And as Gilliman, he wants everything recorded, but obviously the Inquisition have other thoughts about that. And again, maybe that's got to lead somewhere. I know there was always got to be friction with if a Primarch came back, but I thought there would be less friction if Gilliman came back, because he's like a senator or somewhat. He knows how to be a diplomat with certain people, but it doesn't look like it's going that way. For example, if the Lion came back, I'm sure the Lion would just say, you know what, I don't care what you think. It's my empire now, so get the hell out. That's basically the Lion's attitude. So I think Gilliman is still playing the political game with certain parties, and again, it's got to be a very, very interesting read if they start going down certain paths with this, because I think the actual political side of the Imperium is one of the most fun things to read. There was a series called the Beasteritis series. Hopefully, most of the people have read it. It's a great series. If not, go and read it. And that was very political in a sense as well, and I actually enjoyed all the politics in those books with certain parties like the Imperial Navy and the Inquisition and all that kind of stuff. It was very, 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 very good how they wrote about that. And everyone's not friendly in the Imperium. I think some people are just out for themselves. Well, I think we all know that some people are just in it to get greater power, and with someone like Gilliman coming back in the picture and stuff like that, he wants what's best for the Imperium, not what's best for him, and he wants to get rid of those people, and of course they want to try and hold on to as much power as they possibly can. And we actually see this within the 500 Worlds. He actually gets rid of planetary governors, and he brings back the Tetrarchs. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. I'm very, very bad at pronouncing words. Basically, what a Tetrarch is, it's during the Horus Heresy and the Great Crusade, the Tetrarchs were combined with the actual Ultramarines and the Gilliman, and they were comprised of governing the actual 500 worlds. They was actually known as the Tetrarch Council, and they were basically entrusted with the defense of the Ultramar, the 500 worlds and all that kind of stuff. It was like a big council. It wasn't just one man had the power. It was a council that came together and decided what was best. At the end of the day, it just wasn't just one man had the power to do what he wants. And maybe he's going to be doing this with more of the other systems, but he started with the 500 worlds now, so all the planetary governors are gone from the 500 worlds, and he's stated that this new Tetrarch system is back in place. So that is one of the big political things to actually change in this book. I don't know if that will spread to other systems. I'm not too sure. I know it really only worked within the 500 worlds during the Great Crusade and the Horus Heresy, so I don't really know how that would come into play with other systems, since they may see it as an Ultramarine influence coming in and trying to barge them out of power, and again that may cause some friction. So again, that's going to be another interesting path to go down. Well, if they decide to go down that path. And like I said, of course I want them to go down that path because politics in 40k are amazing. Now, this book does a time skip. This book, I think it goes in 116 years after the Indominus Crusade, which Guilliman started. So it does a time jump of to 116 years, and it does discuss some things like Guilliman doesn't have to wear his armor anymore. I think he has a robe on or something when he's actually in the scene. With the whole time skipping stuff, we'll speak about that when I speak about the Primaris Marines, because it can get a bit confusing at this stage. But it does have a time skip. He feels like the Indominus Crusade wasn't really a success. It was more of just patching up the Imperium, to stop the main assault of Chaos. He doesn't really see it as a success at all. Maybe it was more of a triumph for the Imperium as a whole for morale purposes, but he really doesn't see it as a successful crusade. Okay, moving on from Guilliman, we're going to speak about Belisarius Cawl. Now, this guy, I've had some sneaky suspicions about this guy. I think I've always said, is he really doing it for the greater good of the Imperium / Mechanicum, or is he doing it for his own personal means and stuff? Does he really want to be something himself? This book, for me, confirms some of the suspicions I had for him, and one of the ultimately big things is that he wants to break out the gene seed from the traitor legions and make further Primaris Marines using the gene seed. He petitions this to Rebuta Guilliman. Guilliman flat out refuses him, and of course, why wouldn't you? From a lore sense, how would they introduce them into different chapters? Would they say, okay, here's some new Primaris Marines, oh, by the way, they're all word bearers? Is anyone really got to take them into their chapter? Is he going to make a brand new chapter of Primaris Marines with the word bearer gene seed and say, okay guys, those guys are all word bearer gene seeds over there, make sure you work with them and make sure you play happy families with them? How would that work within the political system, not of only the Imperium, but how other Space Marine loyalist chapters see him? Because if I'm, say for example, if I'm an Imperial Fist, and then Cawl comes out and makes a brand new Iron Warrior chapter of Primaris Marines, obviously they're not going to call them Iron Warriors, let's call them Warriors of Iron or something like that, and you say, okay, now you need to team up with these guys. I'm going to be like, what? No, these guys are from Heretic gene stock. I don't want to work with these guys. So I can understand why Rebuta flat out refused him. But again, it's more or less hinted at is that can Guilliman really stop him? Now, he's basically got the means to do it. Are we going to be seeing these things in the actual future? So for me, there's a lot of there's a lot of eyebrow raising at the moment with this chap. And again, moving on to, staying with the subject of the gene seed, he wants to do this with the 2nd and the 11th Legions, which were lost or whatever bloody hell happened to him. So he wants to use their gene seed as well. So this confirms that we still have their gene seed still on file and stuff like that. So yeah, it's very very strange where he wants to go with this, and it is getting a bit concerning. Now, Guilliman has given the task of creating the pylons. Now, I know we spoke about this in my previous videos a little bit, but Guilliman has basically give Belisarius the task now of creating the Necron-Tech style of pylons, which would close the rift and push it back to the eye, maybe to even actually close the actual eye off itself. It's stated that he's working with Eldar, Necron, and Old One technology. He sees that each of these races had a piece to the puzzle, but he's trying to get the best of all their tech and put the puzzle together to see the ultimate picture, if that makes sense. That's what he's trying to do. Um, there is one more. Well, there's a couple more things, but one of the big things about him that it looks like he's lusting for power. He has like this small group of followers, which they adore him, they love him, and stuff like that. And he basically wants to become the fabricated general of Mars. That's I think that is his ultimate goal. He wants Guilliman to try and push that. Guilliman says, "Well, that's not my. I have no authority over that at all." But you can see what he's basically his end goal is. He wants to become the fabricated general of Mars, which is got to be more or less, I would say, impossible because he's hated on Mars. There's one side that hate him because he's doing some tech heresy, because he's doing advancements which they say he shouldn't be doing. There's another group which think he's a heretic because he's meddling with Xenos tech and trying to infuse that with their tech and stuff like that. So he's not very liked on Mars, and I think that if he did push to become the fabricated general, I think it would cause another civil war on Mars, and I think Guilliman doesn't really want that at this time. Well, I don't think he wants that at all. So he's really not trying to get involved with that. But I sense that Caul is got to try and wiggle his way in some way, or maybe kick up some actual dust. Guilliman himself says that he actually foresees an actual problem with Caul in the future. So maybe that is treading on some thin ice at the moment, and maybe we'll actually see some books where he actually may be that problem. I don't think he'll go like full-blown heretic and betray the Imperium and stuff like that. I think again it'll be more of of the political system where he's trying to get involved in and stuff, and he's trying to force his way in. But I don't think he'll ever turn traitor or anything like that. I think he's far too loyal for that. Okay, moving on to the next big thing which we're going to be discussing is the Primaris Marines in this book. Now, there's a lot of really good insight actually into the Primaris Marines. Now, obviously, we all know that they're bigger, they're stronger than I like to call them mini Marines, but we'll just call them old Marines, maybe. I don't know. No, let's just call them mini Marines. Yep, they're bigger and stronger than those guys. It goes into some detail about some of the new organs they have. Actually, most of the extra organs are in their brains. So I think it's like making them a bit more faster reacting and stuff like that. Physically, they're closer to Primarchs than Marines, it's mentioned, which again is a bit... I don't really know how I feel about that, because I've always felt Custodes are closer to the Primarchs, and in this book it does state, well, it doesn't state, but it mentions that Custodes are more advanced than Primaris Marines. But if they're coming out and saying that Primaris Marines are more closer to Primarchs, then I'm seeing them as like custodial level, and I don't really want that for these guys. I just want them to be maybe just a little bit better than Space Marines. But yeah, that was a bit of a head scratcher for me. They're not all that grown. Some of the Space Marines, actually, the main character, the main Primaris Marine, which is in the book, is from the time of the Horus Heresy. I think he was 13 years old. He was an aspirant. He was going to join the Ultramarines, and then he basically got took and put in the Primaris project, and yeah, that's where he went to. One of the things, like I said, in this book is the time skip, which confused me a little bit. I had to go back and reread and stuff like that, but there is a time skip. So at the start of the Indominus Crusade, at the Ultima founding, there was tens of thousands of Primaris Space Marines. Only half were put into the new chapters, to make up the losses and stuff like that, and the other half fought as a legion called the Unnumbered Sons, which basically meant that you had Blood Angels, Ultramarines, Imperial Fists, Space Wolves, Dark Angels, all put into the same legion to create a bond of fellowship, pretty much like the Death Watch, but chapter, like Legion size, because Guilliman thought that one of the main reasons of the heresy, because one of the heresy happened, was because that chapters shut themselves off from other chapters, and they had their own rituals and that kind of stuff. So he thought that having that bond of brotherhood all together would stop future maybe betrayals and stuff like that. But again, once we come to the end of the Indominus Crusade, which is, again, like I said, 116 years jump from the Gathering Storm series. I know this is getting a bit confusing. The Unnumbered Sons were basically drained from the Legion size, and they had to reinforce the chapters which they would actually from. And at the end of the Crusade, they were completely disbanded. So the Unnumbered Sons are not around. At the end of the Indominus Crusade, around about, at the end of the actual Crusade itself, a lot of, I think it was around 90% of the Space Marine chapters accepted the new Primaris Marines now. As okay, we welcome you guys. So I'm hoping that we actually get some series of chapters who don't like the Primaris Marines. I think it was the Flesh Terror author Andy Smiley mentioned that maybe the Flesh Terrors were one of the chapters that wouldn't accept Primaris Marines, or they looked down on them, they saw them as different, they basically just didn't like them. So I would actually love to read a book about Primaris Marines not being accepted and not welcomed in a chapter and being forced onto a chapter. I think that would make a very interesting read, because you have these guys who turn up who are willing to die for you, wanting to fight for the chapter, and you don't really care because you don't really like them. So I think that would make a very, very nice read. It also goes into some detail about some of the new units which Primaris Marines have. These actually not on tabletop, so I'm kind of looking forward to if they do come out on tabletop. And one of the main ones was something called an Overlord, which is a flyer, and it was so big that it made the Thunderhawk look like a toy. So only the bloody Emperor knows how big this thing's got to be. I wonder if we'll actually get a plastic version of this, because I know there's a lot of rumour about a plastic Thunderhawk. Maybe it got confused that maybe it's the Overlord which is getting the plastic flyer, because it's supposed to be this huge mammoth flyer. So that's got to be very, very interesting to see. There was a unit called Primaris Aggressors. They were wearing Gravis armor, and I think they had flamers, and they had like shoulder-mounted like rockets. I think they were basically Devastators. They were basically the new Devastator units in the game. So yeah, those seem pretty interesting. I actually wonder if we actually got to get models for all these. I think we will, because in this book they basically hold hand in hand with GW and the marketing and stuff like that. They're giving us a glimpse into some of the early models which we should be getting. And they mentioned something called Primaris Reavers, if I'm not mistaken, and they were like a close combat unit, but they were infiltration as well. They wore like special stealth, stealth power armor, if that's like the correct word to say. They carried blades, and I think if I remember correctly, they had skull helmets, or was it like the sergeant who had the skull helmet? I think they had that. I'm not too sure if they had all skull helmets. Sorry about that. But yeah, those are very interesting to read about. It's a very interesting time with some of these new units which have popped up in the book. I'm wondering how it's actually going to go down with the actual greater audience itself. I am not too sure, but hey, new models are always going to be welcome with me. So I gladly look towards the future to see if we actually do get these. Of course, like I just said just a second ago, is that if anything, I would love to have the flyer. I haven't really got a flyer added to my collection yet, and if this Overlord flyer is as big as they say, then I may have to spend some cash if it's a plastic one. I think if it was a Forge World one with all the resin, I think it would cost a mortgage on my house. So hopefully it will come out in plastic. Alright, just to end the video, we'll discuss the Sisters of Silence, because that's a very interesting topic, and the Custodes. So, over the 10,000 years and stuff, the Sisters of Silence have almost dwindled down to nothing of their numbers. They're back gearing back up now. One of the really interesting things is that the Sisters of Silence actually see the Emperor as a god now. They worship the Emperor as a god, and they actually see Guilliman as a living saint, of course, because he's the son of the Emperor and stuff like that. So that was a very interesting thing, because obviously during the heresy they never saw him like that. I think it was the Master of Mankind. Yeah, it was the Master of Mankind. There was a scene, by the way, this is a spoiler if you haven't read the Master of Mankind. There was a scene where they're all marching past the Emperor, like all these troops and stuff, and everyone's seen him as in his own way. And there was this sister who basically just saw the Emperor as just a normal guy just sitting on a chair. And I thought that was quite funny, because that's how they see him, you know, because they're nullified by his psychic they nullify the psychic presence, so they just see the Emperor as just this chap sitting on a chair. So seeing him now, I don't know really how their view of him has changed, but of course, again, maybe we'll get some more books on why they've changed that. The Custodes themselves, they've basically just been chilling for the past 10,000 years, more or less. Been a bit sad and upset like the Emperor's in the way he is, but with Guilliman coming back, it's set them on a course of righteous fury, let's say. But now he worries that their rage may actually consume them. I think he's prepped them a bit too much, and he sent them out onto the playing field, and they're not only just playing with the ball, they're killing everyone else who basically touches the ball. So he's a bit concerned that these guys are like, holy Emperor, what have I done? So that's a very interesting subject to explore in the future as well. Right, I have been waffling on now for the past, I think it's past 30 minutes, so thank you for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope I've shared some information with you. If you've read the book as well and you want to post some stuff I haven't posted about, please, if you can, try and put spoiler above your text in like bold writing, so no one trips up on it at all, and that kind of stuff. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time, brothers. So have a great day, and I'll see you all soon. See you now, and